All that it will take for this game to be 10 out of 10 in my book is to give me unlimited glamour dresser space.
Yes, exactly.
A game of the year.
And give us more things to glamour with.
Yeah.
We want more stuff in the game.
Why do they only give us like 10 different outfits a patch? I just want them
20.
Yeah, just go crazy. You know, one day what I want from this game is for them to create some sort of mall, right? And you just go in. They have like a bunch of different stores where they have like different types of glams. You know, you have your emo goth glam store here. You have your femboy store here. You have your, you know, just go crazy with it. People love glam. People love outfits. Just go all out. You know, give me more than 2 hairstyles a patch.
Yep. That would be. It's just fashion 14 now.
Yes. Hello everybody and welcome to Chocobo Radio episode number 21. I cannot believe I've been going this far, but here we are, and I have a very special guest today. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Faye.
Hello everyone, I'm Fayevi. I am a self-proclaimed content creator that makes shorts on TikTok, Twitter actually, and YouTube. Oh well, videos on YouTube more so, but...
Nice. So, you know, today we have a very, very special show because we're coming off the heels of FanFest London. And I think really my first question to you, Faye, is have you ever been to a FanFest before?
I really want to, but I have never been able to, unfortunately. I think when I saw like all the fun things that happened during the NA FanFest throughout the years, I've always wanted to go to one. And EU as well. I was always really excited to be part of it, but I never really had the time nor really the money to like fly over to places. So
yeah, that's like, a big one.
So maybe next year I might, you know, take a chance and go to a fan fest, but unfortunately not so far.
Right. Okay. Well, you know, I went to the one in Vegas and it was pretty interesting to say the least. It was very hot. I think it got to like about 100 degrees Fahrenheit at like the that was probably like the coldest that I saw, but it was brutal. But being in there, I just want to go back, and I think I really want to try out a Japanese fan fest because seeing what they did in London, it was pretty crazy, and I know the one in Tokyo is going to be even better. But we have a lot of news to go over today, so I think I just want to jump right into it and let's talk about the new job, Viper. So if you haven't seen it yet, go check out the video. I posted a video on my TikTok, and there's a video on the main channel of Final Fantasy XIV, and the new job is called Viper, and it has a very Assassin's Creed sort of vibe to it, which honestly, I'm kind of down with, but I'm curious. What do you think of the new job?
I actually didn't expect it to be a dual sword at all, because like when people were speculating based on the T-shirt that Yoshi P showed during NA, everyone was like going really deep into it, and I really was like, guys, I don't think it's really that deep. But everyone went like super hardcore on it. It's like, oh, there is this artist that made this shirt, or the movie that's coming out and that's related to pirates, and it's gonna be Corsair. And I was like, yeah. I was kind of vibing with that. I was like, you know, it's not crazy for it to be Corsair, but also I felt like it was really deep. And now it just turns out that it was Leonardo with the dual sword, and people are like, what the why did we just go so deep into it?
Yeah, one of my favorite things to do is go back and check out old Final Fantasy XIV theory videos about like new jobs, new expansions, and it's always interesting to see how far some people go with their theories. But you know, at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're just theories, and you know, you take them with a grain of salt. Is how I've always seen it. But we are getting a second job that has been pretty hush-hush. So far, all we know that it is going to be a new healer job, and I'm curious, you know, where do you land on your theory of what this second job is going to be? Because I've been hearing stuff like Green Mage, I've been hearing things like Pictomancer, but what do you think? Is it going to be something else?
Ever since I saw the green shirt of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I've always just opted Green Mage, and I believe that and they have done this multiple times, they're not gonna call it Green Mage. They might just take it and just swap around the names a bit, and then just say like, oh, this is a 14 original. Kind of what they did with like Gunbreaker.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, well, this is actually the Gunblade from 8, but it's the 14 original. It's the Gunbreaker. And like Sage was kind of the same idea. I feel like they will just take like a Green Mage and swap some things around about it.
Yeah.
And then just say like, oh, well, this is our version of the Green Mage. And
it's a new job.
That's what I'm standing for. Yeah, basically they will just take the same stuff and swap it up a bit and just tell us that this is our 14 version of Green Mage. That's what I firmly believe. But
yeah,
I'd be very excited to see a new caster again. The last time we saw one was Red Mage, I think, and that was a long
that
time
Stormblood?
ago. That was Stormblood.
Wow.
Yeah, that was where Raoban terrorized all the EU players and they played with this impossible quest line. But yeah,
it's gonna be interesting. I'm still holding out for a tank ranged, but I don't think that's ever gonna happen. So we'll see how this goes.
I think it would be I think it would be hard, mainly because tank is really like melee. Kind of like a melee based job, right? Like you really need to be up in the face of the boss. So from a game design perspective, I can imagine it would be really hard to make a...
Yeah, like the only thing that I can think of for a ranged tank is if they somehow incorporate it with like Beastmaster, where your beast, I guess, is the thing that is tanking it, and you're just, providing DPS as a ranged character. But other than that, I think you're right. I don't know how they can do it.
It will be a challenge, but if they pull it off, that would be really cool. So
yeah. And in the keynote, Yoshi P also they are being a very hush hush with the MSQ, but one of the biggest things that they've talked about at Vegas and this London Fan Fest was that the Scions are going to be divided, and I am curious to hear, what do you think Yoshi P meant by that? Because for me, the way that I've always seen it is, if the group is going to be divided, that means we're going to have a couple of characters on our side, and we're going to be, fighting against them or trying to have like our own agenda against like the other group. So I'm curious, who do you think is going to be on the other side? Because for me, I think I have my names are set with Alphino, with Ishtola, and with Urianger on the other side. And the reason why I say that is because I feel like those three characters are always the ones that are kind of sort of dictating what we do in the MSQ in terms of like the plans, in terms of like, like who we're going to be meeting and like what our agenda is going to be. But I'm curious as to how did you interpret that when Yoshi P said that the Scions are going to be divided?
Well, I guess like there's two ways how I would look up on it. The first way would be very similar to, I guess, like Marvel's Civil War, right? Where both sides have a very clear motive of why they are choosing a specific side, and they beat each other up over it. Or there's like some force in there that deliberately divides us for a very specific reason, where because it kind of goes against the science principles to go against each other. So it doesn't really make a lot of sense to say like, hey, you guys have a difference in opinion, let's fight. Because they don't usually do that, because the entire purpose of science is to agree on like, hey, this needs to change. And they're usually like 99% of the time on the same page.
Yeah.
So there must be a really good reason for them to be like, nah, I think your opinion is invalid. Let's move on to something else. Yeah. So I think on both sides, I would say like Alphinaud and LSA should probably be divided, because usually they're together.
That's true.
So I think it would really dramatize the conflict. And same with like Thancred and Urianger. They should also be divided, because they also like are usually hands in hands with each other.
Yeah.
So I guess it could be like kind of what you have like Warrior of Light together with Krill, Gratia, because Gratia is always going to be with the wall, like no matter what. Like he's like so down bad for like the Warrior of Light. So and then like Thancred, And I'm probably like Estinian. I don't really know if Estinian is definitely there. So
Yeah.
and then on the other side it would be like Alphanod, Ishtola, Urianje, and Co. Basically like the rest of the cast.
Yeah, I'm excited, but I am curious to hear what you think about. So, I've been watching a lot of videos of people's expectations for Dawntrail, and I feel like one of the things that a lot of people are saying is that they do not want the Scions to play a huge role in the story, and I'm curious to hear what you think about that. Would you like to have the Scions be included as they always have been? Or do you think they should just kind of take a break and let some new characters come in and, flesh out their story?
Oh, actually, that's a pretty good point. I feel like, yeah, I mean, I think it's a new beginning, right? It's new opportunities, new story, new vibe. So I think it wouldn't be crazy for the Scions to kind of play a side role and really put maybe a different type of group in the centerpiece for once. Maybe a more important group that might expand into the future expansions. Because like the entire purpose of Science was to, well, reunite Eorzea and save the realm kind of deal. And when they go to Tural, I think was called,
Something like that.
It's supposed to be like a holiday, right? So I think like maybe it wouldn't be too crazy for them to take a little break and just kind of chill.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for the beach episode version of Final Fantasy 14. That's what I'm waiting for.
I think it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
I think they should.
Yeah. So in the keynote, they also talked about this new graphic update, and from what they've shown so far, what do you think about this graphic update? Because this has been something that's been on my mind since they even talked about it, way back a couple months ago. But I'm curious, like, how what do you expect from this graphic update? What do you want to see in it?
I don't want to see those grapes again, that's for sure. But I think that in most cases, the biggest part of the graphical update is mostly texture. And the textures look amazing. Like I think that compared to what we have now, because now the game looks alright.
Yeah.
And it has aged quite alright, but compared to what we see nowadays, it is kind of falling behind. So I get that they want to do an upgrade. And I think what is the most important for me to see more other than the graphical texture upgrade is lighting, but also colors. Because I feel sometimes that Final Fantasy 14 looks a little bit undersaturated.
Yeah.
So everything looks a little bit gray and dead.
Yeah.
It's like, especially if you go to like a beautiful area like what is that fairy area called again in Shadowbringers? I don't really know what the name is.
Loran or something?
I don't know. There was this like oh god, now I feel like a noob. I haven't been there in so long, but there's this very beautiful, colorful area that is from the face from Shadowbringers, and it looks absolutely amazing. But it's also super undersaturated, so there's this beautiful pink coloring and all these beautiful sparkles, and then you have like kind of a gray undertone by it, and it kind of like ruins the vibe. But
I mean, what I've been wanting for since I even started playing this game and messing around with mods, don't ban me, please. When I started messing around with
the forbidden word,
when I started messing around, with reshade, I really want something like that implemented into the base game. Like,
I've had a lot of people that literally just downloaded Gshade/reshade just to put on like the colorize filter and to make the game look more colorized. Due to that undersaturation issue.
Yeah, so, because one of the things that a lot of people like to do in this game is, dress up their character, go into G-pose and just, take screenshots. That's like a big part of the game. And since they already implemented G-pose, I think the devs understand that, the screenshot aspect of the game and the dressing up your character, and, I think they understand that that's a big part of the game. And I'm sure that they know that, a lot of people would be wanting something like that, something implemented into the game.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like that in most cases. I mean, glamour is always endgame. Like if you suffer through ultimate raids, you do it for the weapon. You know, if you suffer through like a savage raid, no one really cares if you have like the highest gear level in the end. You just want to look cool. You're like,
Yeah.
hey, I have the highest level gear in the game, and you can see it because they really put a lot of detail to, especially like the savage tier gear sets, that people when they see it they're like, oh my god, that looks awesome, and I want to see that, and they're like, oh, that's a hardcore player that has gotten the whole set, you know, throughout all these months. It's kind of like a reward to show off how much you dedicate to the game, and I think it's really cool to see.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. Another thing that they mentioned in the keynote is that they want to, you know, they're creating a new lifestyle type content, which, you know, for the people who don't know what that is, it's kind of like Island Sanctuary. And, you know, Yoshi P mentioned that in Island Sanctuary, that was supposed to be more solo, but for this new lifestyle content that they're bringing in Dawn Trail, they want to make it a little bit more co-op. So I'm curious, like, what do you think they meant by that, and what sort of, you know, game style, game mode would you want to see in this game?
I assume maybe they wanted to be like, hey, let's put Sims 4 in Final Fantasy. Maybe something like that. Like, I think that right now there is a big issue with housing, for example. And especially like in the most overpopulated servers, a lot of people leave just to get a house. Like, it is hard to get a house in 14, and there was a big problem in the beginning of Endwalker and Shadowbringers that people just could not get a house. So maybe they could implement something where it's instant based housing where people can come together, and I don't know, like there's a lot of opportunities they can go with. Island Sanctuary is kind of more of an Animal Crossing kind of vibe. Where you visit each other from time to time and kind of hang out. But I think it would be cool to kind of see like a Sims 4 vibe. I think a lot of people would like that.
I could see that happening. I was really hyped for Island Sanctuary, and I did play it a lot with my fiance because she likes, you know, those chill Animal Crossing style games, and that was kind of like how I introduced it to her. But I don't know, I think my issue with Island Sanctuary is just that it felt so repetitive? Lonely. Yeah, repetitive for one, but it also felt very lonely. You know, and I don't know what they could have done to improve it. Like, I don't know if adding NPCs would have, you know, made that big of a difference. But I'm just wondering, like, what did you think of Island Sanctuary? And do you have anything that you would like to see them do to like improve it?
I have no life Island Sanctuary the moment it came out. I went to like max rank as fast as I could, and I was so excited for it because I also really like Animal Crossing, for example, so it was really something for me. But it is true that at some point it got very stale for me a bit. Not really much changed throughout the patches as well. They just added the same stuff. Not really, well, except like maybe the island decorating. But I haven't really gotten into it, but
yeah, me too.
I would like to probably like, I don't know, maybe a quest system in that game. Maybe have like villagers asking you to collect stuff for them for rewards, or maybe something else other than, hey, go out there and collect some wood and come back and have fun. It's kind of like, it gets boring at some point.
I don't know why. I always thought it would be interesting if they added some sort of PvE aspect to it. Like, I don't know, maybe have like some sort of dungeon where, you know, you go in and you fight mobs and, you know, they drop the loot that you can go out and gather. You know, maybe something like that. I don't know if you played this game called Cult of the Lamb, but that's kind of how that game works. Is you know, you go out and you fight, and then in between the rooms, you know, you're collecting a bunch of like materials, and then you just go back to your farm, and then you just you know, build stuff. And I think
actually, that'd be a great idea. That would actually be a really good addition to like, especially Island Sanctuary. And I think the one thing I really would like to see change about Island Sanctuary is the capture system. because the first time I heard about capturing animals, I thought it was like some kind of like mini game kind of deal, or something more than just right-clicking it and it would like throw out a net and be like, oh, you got it. Oh no, never mind, it escaped. I was kind of like disappointed. I was like, oh really, that's it?
Yeah,
But,
and the frustrating part about that is they already have something in this game that they could have just, you know, copy pasted. And that's, you know, when you do like a trial and then you have to like mash your button like really, really fast. They could have done that. You know, they could have done something where you have to like time it and you have to like, I don't know, push your space bar at like a, you know, where like a gauge is going back and forth. You have to like push it in the middle. I don't know, something, you know, just gamify it a little bit. And it's funny because I feel like that's one of my main complaints with this game in general. Like, I love the game, but there are some parts where I think if they just gamified it a little bit, it would make it like a whole, like a bigger difference in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel like they did actually take the game entirely, like especially inspiration-wise, from World of Warcraft. And it's very point-to-click like at times, where some game elements that they're trying to implement feel a little bit weird because like in modern games, the way how they would handle it is different. And maybe it is because of the outdated engine they're using, which, you know... Because I always said, like, if they really want to fix 14, if they really want to make it better, you just gotta build it from the ground up again. Like, you gotta take what they have, put it in a new engine that gives them more possibilities way easier. Because even though they could do it with the current engine, it will be so much harder and so much more, like... It would take so much time that they wouldn't do it because it takes so much time.
Of course.
And with a newer engine, they could definitely do a lot more... more efficiently too, so it would benefit the game in a huge deal. But I don't think they will ever have the time to do that again.
Like I haven't been playing this game as much as a lot of other people have. You know, like I came in right before Endwalker launched, but I have heard that excuse since I've been playing, and even before that, you know, they can't do X because of the spaghetti code, they can't do Y because of the engine limitations, and it's just like, if we really are going to have another 10 years of content, how much longer can we use that excuse?
That the engine, for sure not. Like, the thing is that the things that they want to do is definitely possible. Everything they want to do and everything they want to implement, they can implement. But they just don't have enough time. Just because of like how difficult it is to implement it because of the bad engine. They're like, well, we can do that for the next 6 months and hopefully it works, or we can do something else that we know for a fact will work and then just do that instead. So maybe they're trying to cut corners. I don't really know. I have studied game development and I kind of know more or less how that works. But I think at some point they really need to step up and be like, hey, we need to upgrade. We need to like really jump to a new engine. And I know it's going to take a lot of work, and I know it's going to be very painful for them. And I'm sure Yoshi P is not looking forward to a Realm Reborn again.
3.0.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't think he's looking forward to doing that again, because watching those documentaries and how hard they crunched to make it happen, like that was a legendary moment. Like, that revived the game. And doing that again, I can imagine you don't want to do it. But at some point, they either have to make a new Final Fantasy 14, or they have to upgrade the engine. Like, it's either one or the other. Because like this, at some point, because you saw what happened with from Stormblood to Shadowbringers, they had to crunch down the numbers, for example, because the engine could not handle the big numbers. And that sounded crazy to me. I was like, how can an engine not handle like 7 or 8 numbers? Like, what? Like, so like in 2020 or 2018 at the time, that sounds crazy. Like, how can an engine not handle like 10 million, for example, as a number? Like, it already shows like how old that engine is. Right?
But you know, we'll see. I think I have faith in the devs. I don't think the devs have let us down. So, you know, whatever they do, they do, but I would die if we get like a trailer one day where it's like Final Fantasy 14 remastered
Yeah.
Unreal Engine or whatever engine they come up with. But and that would be great.
Yeah, because if you look at games nowadays like Lost Ark, Black Desert Online, all these other MMOs that look amazing, they play amazing, and it's all action based, right? They're all just on newer engines.
Yeah.
And then imagine that in Final Fantasy, like.
Oh man! If we could get if we could get Final Fantasy VII Rebirth combat in an MMO,
exactly,
I would fucking die. I would. That's all I want. That is all I want.
And that's the thing. It is possible. Like with a new engine, that is definitely possible, and they would do it very easily too.
Yeah.
Like I've always, ever since I think from Heavensward to Stormblood, when Stormblood came out, me and my friend back in the days used to really like kind of fanboy about what Stormblood's gonna be like, because Yoshi P would come on stage and be like, yeah, we have revamped the combat system, and we're like, oh my god, did they change the game into like more action-based combat, like real-time combat? Which unfortunately it did not. They just changed the combat system, but not in the way that we imagined it as kids. We were like, as teenagers, we were like, oh my god, like they're gonna make like BDO combat and it's gonna be amazing, and then it turned out to be just point to click again, and we're like, never
just
mind.
a new job gauge.
Yes, basically that was what they added, right? And I was like, that's not revolutionary at all.
Yeah. What are the odds that in some basement somewhere at Square Enix they're working on like the next MMO? Final Fantasy 18? What is the next MMO gonna be?
Oh damn! I think that with their budget right now, it depends. Like the one thing I think Square should stop doing, and I know it sounds maybe a bit controversial.
Here we go. Hot takes. Come on.
Hot takes. Stop making these freaking games that won't get you any money. Like they keep putting money in games that literally no one asked for, and they're like, oh, but this is a good combination. Like like for example, Harvestella or something like the Harvest game combined with Final Fantasy. Great idea. But did it really make you that much money though? Like it wasn't that popular. Like people were like, "Oh my god, this is cool," and then people played it for like a week, and they're like, "This is kind of shit."
Yeah.
Like, I don't really. So they need to stop putting their money onto like trying to make revolutionary products and kind of stick with what made them popular to begin with.
What makes
like,
them money?
Final Fantasy, yeah, exactly. Like Final Fantasy is and Dragon Quest especially are one of like the two main titles that made Square Enix. So, and they keep trying to like go away from that, and I get that. You want to like widen out. Like at some point, Final Fantasy will fall off. I get that.
Sure.
But putting millions in the game that is probably gonna fail is not really worth it. Like I have heard that recently Square has gone into red again, and it's not really looking too great for them. And the only two games that is holding them up, surprise, surprise, Final Fantasy 14 and 16.
Yeah.
So I'm like, hey, maybe make more Final Fantasies, make more spin-offs, like people love those spin-offs too.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 7 Remake, great idea. People would love to replay that game in a newer age with a newer engine and all the possibilities we have nowadays.
Yeah.
To see how Final Fantasy can look like, and they can do it again. I think they should just keep doing that. Like that brings in money, right?
Yeah,
so
definitely. Yoshi P also talked about a new Alliance Raid, which will be the Final Fantasy 11 collab. Did you ever play that game?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
When I was younger, I always had my eyes set on 14.
Yeah.
When I saw the gameplay of 11, I was like, "What is this? What is this game?"
Yeah.
And then they were like, "Oh, you have to remember that came out in 2002." I'm like, "What?
Whoa.
That's crazy."
Yeah, I think that came out for the PS2.
Yeah, something around that time. I think Final Fantasy 10 came around like 2002 maybe, and then like 11 came like 2004, I think, around that time. Like I don't really, I was like a baby at the time, so I had no clue.
Yeah.
But I saw gameplay of it, and I was like, I can't play this. I have no clue.
Yeah. What's your favorite Alliance Raid so far?
Oh, Eden, I think.
Eden.
Oh no, wait.
Okay.
No, wait. Eden. Sorry, Eden is not an Alliance Raid.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It was the one that was introduced in Shadowbringers.
Oh, Nier.
Yes, yes. That one was so good. Nier, I really liked. But also, Rabanastre was a really good Alliance Raid. And I know for a fact that a lot of people during Orban Monastery lost their shit.
Is that the one with the math where I have to do math?
No, that was the light tower.
Okay, okay,
people did go crazy for that too because they were like, what are prime numbers?
Yeah, I was one of them.
Yeah, same. I was actually like, I looked at the prime numbers and I was like, I was pretty young at the time, so they didn't taught us prime numbers yet. So I was like, what the hell is a prime number? So I had to Google what the hell a prime number was to actually do that mechanic. And then the Orban Monastery, people would lose their minds over the Thunder God, I think, with the giant swords.
Yeah.
Like, that one was pretty hard for most people at first, so...
For me, it's still the boss where it has, like, the water that's, like, falling all over the stage, coming out of, like, pots, and it's like, water everywhere.
Oh...
I forgot which one. It's that one.
I actually don't remember. It's been so long. It's been so long I did any of these alliance raids to begin with.
Yeah. Every time I queue up for an alliance raid, I always get Crystal Tower. So I basically just stopped doing that roulette at some point.
Yeah. It's always the goddamn Crystal Tower.
Yeah, it's the worst. Yoshi P also talked about new Hildibrand. Are you a Chad Hildibrand enjoyer or not?
I love Hildibrand.
Okay.
I think it's one of the more funnier side quests.
It is so funny to me how many people hate Hildibrand. And I never understood why, especially with the whole, relic conversation around Hildibrand. And in my head, I was always like, bro, you can just skip the cutscenes of all of Hildibrand in probably one afternoon, and you'll be caught up.
Yep, for sure. Nah, they're pretty short. Like, if you skip the cutscenes,
they have like 3 quests. 3 quests for like every tier.
I think a lot of people didn't like the idea because Hildibrand starts from ARR. So a lot of people are like, oh my god, do I have to go back to the ARR quest? And if you like, oh, that's the cat.
Yeah.
that's typical cat behavior.
Yeah.
But I think Hildibrand, especially like from the beginning, I don't remember it really well. But I can imagine that from the beginning, people will get upset because they have to like do stuff that they never knew they had to do.
Right.
Because I think the biggest mistake they made there was the fact that they made a optional quest a mandatory quest, more or less. Because if you want to get the relic, you have to do all of this old content that no one really... Like, if they really didn't want to do it, they are not doing it.
Yeah.
And now they're kind of being forced to do it. And I can imagine it feels a bit bad for them. It's like, I don't really want to go back to that.
Level 50 content. Oh, no.
Yeah, like, back to ARR. I thought I was out of that already. Like, goddamn, I'm going to go back now. So I can imagine that people would get upset by it. But honestly, I'm pretty sure the moment that it started out, they were kind of okay with it. Because I didn't hear any complaints afterwards. I think they were pissed because...
That's true.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
To do something again.
Yeah. They also talked about they also talked about Deep Dungeon, which I thought was interesting. They said that they have new plans for Deep Dungeon, which it's pretty vague, but I just wanted to know, do you play a lot of Deep Dungeon content, and what do you think they meant by that?
I used to play a lot of Deep Dungeon. I actually tried to go for floor 200 solo once.
Oh wow! Yeah.
And I gave up because that is a nightmare.
It's tough.
Props to the ones that actually like go through that and do not lose their mental, because I did.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it anymore. With new Deep Dungeon content, I hope that they mean that maybe it's an 8-player mode at some point. More people in there.
Okay.
That could be interesting. Maybe a revamp of the Deep Dungeon system by itself, because right now, technically all you do is run down the same floors over and over, and I remember using that as a method to level up back at Stormblood and Shadowbringers, and I would fall asleep like at like the 5th floor.
Yeah.
So,
I always just have like Netflix playing on the side whenever I do Deep Dungeon. But it's interesting. I thought it was interesting the way that they announced it, like new plans for Deep Dungeon. And I have a video in mind that I'm gonna put out at some point. I just got to get all my thoughts together, of what how I would improve Deep Dungeon. But I honestly think what they should do is just make it more of a roguelike. Make it more like Hades. I don't know if you play Hades before, or the Binding of Isaac, Risk of Rain. If they just made it more like that, where you have where you progress. Yeah, she's just on me today. Where you just progress and you just start getting more, more powerful, more OP. I think that's something that I would like them to do, just because I don't like the fact that other than your ether pool, there really isn't any sort of progression. Because once you finish up those 10 floors, you're kind of starting back at the beginning. So some of the things that I thought could be interesting is if they, for example, had your the palms, or your upgrades, where that basically persists throughout the entire run. I think that could be something that they could do. I honestly think what they should do is they should just make Deep Dungeon one thing. And so all of the maps that they've made, for Deep Dungeon, for Heaven on High, for Eureka Orthos, they should just put them all into one, and then just randomize each floor. And then you could just get a Heaven on High one, you could get a Eureka Orthos one. They could do things like that that would just make it a little bit more interesting to continue playing. I think that's really all that I want from Deep Dungeon.
I think what they should do is, because right now we already have duty abilities, like the things that we use for Eureka at the time, and now also sometimes raids. You have special abilities that you can only use in that specific raid. I think it would be cool to have every single floor you choose an upgrade, or you choose a new spell maybe that you can use for the next floors.
Yeah,
something that persists along the way. And,
right.
I think the camera is being very stubborn right now.
Oh yeah, sorry about that. All right.
No, that's okay.
Yeah, no, that's actually one of the things that I'm also thinking about for that video, is just if they had at the end, after you beat a boss, after you beat the boss, they drop 2 items, and you can pick up one, and it just makes you more OP. Imagine if you get an item, for example, that gives you what is that called? Dual cast that Red Mage has, but you could have it for another caster. Imagine Black Mage. That would be so fucking awesome. I think definitely. It's just making it so you just keep getting more OP, more overpowered. I think that could just make it a lot more fun. Have the enemies scale with each floor, in terms of difficulty, and then just have a boss rush at the end where you have I don't know, you fight Thornton and Garuda at the same time or something. I don't know, just go crazy with it.
Yeah, I think they have a lot of possibilities, especially if you look at roguelike games nowadays. So if they really captivate on it, I think it can be a really fun game mode. Yeah. That is not meant for leveling and falling asleep.
Yeah, but we'll see what they do. I think that's the one that I'm a little bit. I think that's the one that I'm most excited for when it comes to Dawntrail. But we'll see. We'll see how it goes. They also talked about a new limited job, and they didn't say anything about it. So I'm just wondering. Well, first, have you played Blue Mage?
I have.
What did you think of it?
Well, I think that gives away a lot.
Yeah.
I have not leveled Blue Mage yet until max at the moment. But at the time when I leveled everything to 90, I leveled Blue Mage to, I think 70 or 80 it was. I don't remember. I think it's 70.
Yeah.
Pure so that I have everything maxed out. Was it fun? Meh. Yeah, I think it's a shame that, because sometimes I have for example an idea can you beat MSQ with Blue Mage only, or can you play for FF with Blue Mage only? And then I googled it and I was you cannot do MSQ with Blue Mage. I was what's the real purpose of Blue Mage now? Because you have this really cool job that's actually pretty unique to the game, but you can't use it. You can only use it to make yourself torture more. to get like the Alpha and Omega title, for example, like trying to do A12S, I think, to like I think it was Delta Escape, but something like the Omega raids, basically, right?
Yeah.
Just to get, for example, certain titles, and you try to like get on the highest rank with Blue Mage only. It's challenging, sure, but I feel like that it feels
it's
like
not enough.
It says it's a limited, it's a limited job, but like it feels too limited. Like it feels like it's just there. Like people forget about that job, and the only reason why it would be useful is for like tomb grinding. You know, and that's kind of like because what people do is like when there's like these Moogle tombs that come out every patch.
Yeah.
People like group up and go to Auramville and try to rush it in like 2 minutes. That's for example.
That's true.
What they would use Blue Mage for, but that's it. You know.
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah, I wonder, you know, what can they do to make it more interesting? I always thought it would be interesting. Like I don't think they'll ever do this because I think the phase is kind of over. But I always thought it would have been interesting if they implemented some sort of like battle royale mode, you know, like a Fortnite mode where you just drop into like Bozja, for example, and you just go and try to pick up spells, and I don't know, you know, maybe something like that would be interesting. But I think you're right. Like the fact that it's just so limited, you can't really do much, and the content that you can do, you kind of have to go in with like your own party. So there's a lot of variables when it comes to Blue Mage, and I wonder if they're going to change anything about that with this new limited job.
I hope so, because otherwise I feel like it's just gonna be Blue Mage all over again.
Yeah.
Like people wouldn't really want to level it unless they have to, or if they're really like, there are a few people out there that are like super Blue Mage fanatics and they love it. But other than that, I feel like that as long as if they don't change anything about what you can do as a limited job, it will be introduced, people will love it, and then forget about it at some point. And I think that's a shame. I think it's a real shame.
I wonder, what if you could do roulettes? That'd be interesting.
I think it would be more fun. But I guess the reason why they limited that was it would like disturb the balance of the game or something. So
yeah, I guess. What if they
maybe if they tweak it?
If they tweak it.
Yeah. Because they could make it so like that, because they're creating like over 200 spells for like Blue Mage. I don't think it would take that much effort to maybe like chunk down on the spells a bit and maybe make a second version of it, just like how they did it in PvP, right? You have for example, a normal version that is for PvE, and you have one version of the skill in PvP. I think they could do that for like a limited job as well. Like you could do this if you're unsynced, but if you're synced, we will nerf your spell to this so that you don't, you know, abuse it, or that it's not overpowered, you know. And then just chunk down on like how many spells you make so that people don't lose their minds over it.
The two theories that I keep seeing in comments is Beastmaster or Puppet Master. Me personally, I kind of want to see a Blitzball job. I know a lot of people have been talking about Blitzball, you know, coming to either the Golden Saucer or, you know, being implemented in some way. I always thought it would be interesting if we had like a Blitzball job, and the way that you level it up or the way that you get spells is by using it at the Gold Saucer or whatever sort of, you know, game mode that they have for it. I always thought that could be interesting, but I'm curious, what do you like? What do you think it could be? The limited job.
Beastmaster is definitely not a crazy option. I think I don't really know that many different jobs in Final Fantasy in general. But people have been thinking about, like, for example, Chemist as well, but Chemist is already in the game as a
crafter.
warrior, as a crafter, right? So Chemist would not really work unless they make it like 14 original again and then change a few things, and then they're like, oh well, it's a Chemist, but not really. So that would be interesting. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe you could like learn new recipes to make new spells or something like that. Maybe they can combine Warrior of Hand with Warrior of Warrior of Hand. WL. I don't even know what it's called anymore. Jesus, discipline of hand. There you go. Yeah, the disciplines. Maybe they could combine those two, and discipline of war and discipline of hand. Maybe combine something crazy like that. I don't know. I haven't really looked into the limited jobs because I personally do not do a lot with it, and it's such a forgotten thing in the game that. The last time I thought about limited jobs was when I was forced to level Blue Mage.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. It's interesting, but we'll see. We also have a new collab coming next week, actually. We have the Fall Guys collab coming out on Halloween. But, and this was my... I was a little sad. It was very sad when I heard this. It is not going to be a permanent game mode. The Fall Guys Golden Saucer thing is not going to be permanent. It's going to be timed. And I don't know, you know, if you want the glam, if you want the, I think they're putting out a minion as well. You're gonna want to grind it because it's not gonna be there forever, unfortunately.
Oh,
yeah.
Giving me another reason to play the game full time again.
Right.
No, it's I mean, I get that, I guess, in a way, because like they always do that with like crossovers. Usually they don't stay. At some point they go away. I'm
sure it's like copyright or business reasons, but yeah. It's still
Even
a little
though like
disappointing.
people are more hyped up about Fall Guys in 14 than the actual game. So like,
oh wow,
I kind of feel bad for them because like they're trying to get the collab and everyone's like, yes, Fall Guys in 14, and then actual Fall Guys is like,
the timing, man, it's really bad timing.
Yep.
But yeah, other news, Yoshi P convinced the Final Fantasy 16 lead to do a collab. So we're finally getting a Final Fantasy 16 collab in the game, which is so great. We're getting new glam. I think I saw Clive as the glam that we're going to be able to get. We're also getting a baby Torgal minion and a Torgal mount. So if you played 16, I'm sure you're probably happy. I don't have a PS5, so I haven't had a chance.
I played 16 for like a bit. And yeah, Torgal is best boy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that would be interesting to see how they would incorporate it, because I mean, 14 and 16, they have the same vibe. I think that 14 is very much medieval-ish inspired. And 16 is kind of like in the same direction. You can definitely tell if you play 16 that it is very heavily inspired from 14.
Yeah.
So I think that they merge really well. Final Fantasy 15, for example, I thought was a bit funky because they tried to explain how the car was able to fly. Because like I think we didn't have the same technology as they did, and then they would suddenly bring over the car that would suddenly start flying, and they're like, how do you do that? And they would literally just say like, oh, it's ether, it's magic.
It's magic.
And we're like, that is like, because like in 15 it's actually like machinery, mechanism, and all that technology we don't have in 14. So they just say like, it's just magic. Just pretend it's magic. It's kind of funny. So I think 16 would fit in really well with 14, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, that was pretty much it when it came to the news for FanFest. You know, we have Tokyo FanFest coming on January the 7th. So that's about 77 days from now. But yeah, we're gonna basically see the rest of, you know, we're gonna get the full trailer for Dawn Trail. We're gonna get I guess like the full song, the theme song for Dawn Trail, which I'm totally hyped about. But I'm just wondering, like, what do you want to see at JP FanFest? What do you expect to see?
Chat bubbles.
Oh,
there have been so many people fighting for chat bubbles.
Yeah.
If they add so many quality of life from third-party tools, wink wink, because they are literally they're just taking what other people have made and put it into the game.
Yeah.
Because people are asking for it.
Yeah.
So chat bubbles, people have been fighting for it, and one day I am sure they will announce the chat bubbles.
Yeah, I think I saw a couple people on Twitter today say that chat bubbles have been confirmed by Yoshi P. I think I saw Preach tweet that out, which, you know, he's a pretty big creator, so I don't see why he would lie. But I saw a couple other tweets out there. But yeah, chat bubbles. It's why do you think it's taken so long? Like, what are they afraid of? Why haven't they implemented it into the game yet? What do you think?
I think it's time. I think it's usually time constraints, and I know that like chat bubbles are technically already in the game, and it wouldn't take that long to implement. But I think they were more busy with like actually creating content for Dawn Trail and 6.5 rather than thinking about bubbles.
Yeah,
it's
that's
more
fair.
of an aesthetic rather than because it makes sense. Because like it could be hardware limitations as well, like maybe you know, having a lot of people talk. Because imagine you have like, for example, Limsa, where we are right now. Imagine everyone starts with the bubbles, right?
That
it
is
could
true.
just like destroy their systems if they can't handle it, for example. So maybe they were trying to stress test it as well. There's a lot of things that go through like R&D before they can actually like consider it. So maybe they're scared of like suddenly losing players because they're adding something that maybe only a good chunk can handle, but they also care about the lesser percentage, you know? Like they don't only care about the people that have a 4080 Ti in their computer, and you know, they do care about people that have a lower end system, and they try to balance things out. So maybe that is also a reason.
Yeah, that's true. When it comes to game dev, like I'm so oblivious and I have no idea how it works, but I'm sure if it was easy, they would have just implemented it by now. So
people don't see things behind the scenes 99% of the time, and game developers don't usually show that because it is firstly normally not very interesting, but also no one really cares in the end. Like, no one cares how tough it is to make a game. They just want to see it, you know? And once people really get into the job for anything really, you kind of realize like, hey, it's not actually that easy to do the things we're asking for. But obviously they don't show it, and I understand why, because it feels like you're asking for pity if you do show it. It's like, oh, look how hard I'm having it. Like, you guys all complaining and I'm here working my ass off. Like, you know, it might feel like you're asking for pity points too. So I get like that in some cases they don't really want to talk about how difficult it could be to be a game dev, and there's a lot of things in the background that we don't know about. So always treat your game devs with respect. You know, they are working hard, especially the Japanese ones, because they work overtime like all the time. I can imagine that the entire 14 team works overtime like almost every day. Because it is actually expected in Japan to work overtime for free. So I can imagine they're having a hard time, and if I was a developer, like a full-time developer, and I would hear people like constantly complain, it wouldn't make me feel great either. So I usually don't have a take.
That's fair.
I'm trying to give him a break, you know?
Yeah, which I mean, and that's actually a pretty good segue. You know, about a month or two ago, there was a lot of takes going on YouTube about people saying that Endwalker, you know, wasn't so great. Endwalker was bad. It was the worst expansion ever. What did you think when all of these takes were going around? How come you didn't make a video about how bad Endwalker was?
I wanted to, but I wanted to make a joke out of it. You know, I wanted to start off the video of like, oh guys, I hate Endwalker, so I'm not gonna talk about it. And then I would like make a video about what I would want to see in Dawn Trail, for example. You know? I would like make a joke out of it. But the reason why I didn't do it in the end anyway was like I felt like I would be feeding into the hatred towards the game, and it feels more clickbaity rather than actually like giving a take. And I don't really think the game is that bad at the moment. I feel like that most of the content right now is not for me, which is why the past year or half a year I've been playing other games. You know, I've just kind of been able to try out other games, and I've been really enjoying them instead. So I will just wait for Dawn Trail to come out for me to really get back into the game again. And I don't really want to, like, I love the game, and I've been playing it since I was 13 years old.
Wow.
So it's been like basically a huge chunk of my childhood is put into this game. So yeah, I love it with a passion, but I don't need to like shit on it for it to become better. Like I'm sure the dev team knows that it's not doing too great right now. So I think in most cases, especially when people make videos about it, I think that when people make a video purely hating on it without giving any constructive criticism, they're kind of farming. Like, they're kind of farming for views. And I get it. You know, it's a content creator kind of deal.
You gotta pay bills.
Yeah, you gotta pay the bills. But I don't know. I feel like if you want to really approach it in a constructive way, you rather make an anecdote and talk about like the good parts and the bad parts and kind of compare and see where it went wrong and try to come up with solutions rather than putting them on paper. Because everyone knows what's wrong with the game. Like, you don't need to explain in a 2-hour video why the game sucks right now. Like, people know the game sucks, right?
You know, all that it will take for this game to be 10 out of 10 in my book is to give me unlimited glamour dresser space.
Yes, exactly.
Game of the year, game of the decade.
That's game of the year. That's game of the year for sure.
Yeah,
and give us more things to glamour with.
Yeah,
we want more stuff in the game.
Why do they only give us like 10 different outfits a patch? You know, like I just want them.
20.
Yeah, just go crazy. You know, I one day, what I want from this game is for them to create like some sort of mall, right? And you just go in. They have like a bunch of different stores where they have like different types of glams. You know, you have your emo goth glam store here. You have your femboy store here. You have your, you know, just go crazy with it. People love glam. People love outfits. Just go all out. You know, give me more than 2 hairstyles a patch.
Maybe we should put that in the Sims 4 edition of the game, where they just add a giant mall area for people to hang out and buy new clothes, for example.
Yeah, you see? Game of the year.
Yep. That would be, it's just Fashion 14 now.
Yes. Oh, man. I mean, I love Fashion Souls, you know? That's why.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, just give me that. You know, you mentioned you played this game when you started back when you were 13. How did you get introduced to 14?
I found the game because my brother was a huge Final Fantasy fan, and ever since I was young, I stole his PlayStation and played Final Fantasy X. Or Final Fantasy VIII on the PC at the time.
Yeah.
Actually, I never really got to play 8 because the time where I was allowed to play it on his computer, the asshole cracked the first disc because at the time he needed 4 discs to play a game.
Damn.
So he would like walk up to me with the first disc and just snap it in half. And I was like, how could you do this to me? And I would try so hard to make it work, but obviously if you crack a disc, it's over.
Yeah.
You know? So it was mainly because of him that I was a Final Fantasy fan. And then I saw Final Fantasy 14 at some point, like, and ads. And I was like, oh my god, there's this really cool MMO that I downloaded, and I couldn't play it because my PC was too bad. So I had to really wait for me to play it. And yeah, then ever since then, I've been really kind of no-living the game until like last year, basically.
Yeah, that's basically how it was for me. You know, I started when, you know, the COVID pandemic, everything just started to go down, and you know, everybody was working from home, and you know, I was still working, of course, but you know, sometimes on the side you're just playing the game, queuing up, you know. Yeah, so that's how I started, and I think I did that as well. Like, I would play maybe 5-6 hours pretty much every day for like over like a year and a half straight until I got to Endwalker. And now I've sort of, you know, taken a step back. You know, like you said, I'm playing other games. Like I've just been playing through Baldur's Gate 3 so much.
Baldur's Gate 3 is so good.
Yeah. And but yeah, and it's funny because and I was talking to other creators as well. And a lot of them are telling me that a lot of the times they only log into this game just to like get footage for videos. And I was like, I I do the same thing now.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at. But once Dantro comes out, I'm ready. I'm ready to know life it, and I'm excited.
Yeah. That's what I've been doing lately as well, because of the shorts that I'm making on TikTok as well. I literally log in to film a short and then just log off again. Because lately the content is not for me anymore. I've been, because really what we have other than raiding and maybe some smaller side content, I'm not big on raiding anymore. So I kind of didn't really want to spend too much time into that. So yeah. So that's mainly the reason why I also don't really play the game as much anymore. But I do play it and start it up just for recording footage, basically.
Yeah. What part of the game do you find the most fun? Is it the raiding? Is it the MSQ? Is it RP? What do you like to do in the game?
I would say raiding is for me the most fun part in the game. Even though I'm not doing it anymore, I think that is one of the most fun times I've had.
Yeah.
RPing, I'm not big on RP, but I did one time actually do a pizza delivery in the game because I was bored.
Yeah.
And I needed gil, so I asked a friend, yo, you want to start a pizza business? Because they're doing it in NA.
Cool.
But it's not happening in EU.
Yeah.
So I was like, let's do it in EU. And I basically role played as a pizza delivery boy that would go around and travel anywhere for you just to deliver you that 5k gil pizza that I would sell you.
Awesome.
And then there would be people that asked me to climb the Kugane Tower every single time. And I eventually kind of got sick of that. But and otherwise, I think one time when we did the pizza delivery, I said as a joke, hey, if you go to the party finder to the other section, there's a bunch of these venues that are asking you to come and visit their night club. And I was at the first time I saw it, I was like, this is fucking stupid. Who goes to these things? What is this?
Yeah.
If I want to party, just go outside,
touch grass.
That was me being super oblivious about things. I thought it was dumb, and I was like, I don't know why I would go there. And then we went there, and me and my friend stood there, and literally the next day, I saw him there again. And he went to multiple clubs.
Wow.
Partying with people and talking to them, and he was kind of with me on it. He was kind of saying oh, it's stupid. Why would you go here? It's dumb. I don't get it. And he goes there, and the next upcoming days, I only see him there. And I'm like, huh? So you thought it was dumb, huh? Now you're now you're there the whole time. But he pulled me into it as well. And then when you get into the nightlife of the game, you see so much more of the game that people just on the surface don't see. It's kind of like an iceberg thing. The nightlife of the game actually keeps a big chunk of the game alive as well. People that go to those parties to socialize and make friends and probably do some very R18 stuff. I don't know. I don't want to know, but they do it.
Yep.
I think that part of the game actually really is quite alive. There's a whole different part of the game that a lot of us don't see, especially when you play the game as it's air quote intended to.
As a normie.
As a normie, I guess. If you see that other side, it's holy shit.
Yeah.
I didn't know it. What is this?
Yeah. I mean, hey, it's whatever you find fun, go for it.
Yeah. Whatever floats your boat.
Yeah. Exactly.
I'm not big on it anymore. I used to hang out there from time to time to vibe and listen to music, I guess, and hang out with people. But nowadays, I kind of grew out of that. It was kind of like a phase for me. I was like, the RP space is big.
Yeah,
really big.
I've heard. Yeah. What inspired you to become a VTuber?
Oh, yeah. So basically, when I used to stream back in 2018, I felt like that my streams, I never really streamed the face cam, but I felt like my stream was a bit empty. So at the time, 2017, 2018-ish, there was a program called Face Rig, where you could actually take a character and pose as it to have something on your screen.
Yeah.
And when I did that, everyone thought I was crazy. Because like VTubing was not a thing. Like no one knew the term VTuber. We didn't even call it a VTuber at the time. We just called it like a virtual avatar or something like that.
Interesting.
And when I kind of quitted that whole thing, VTubing took off. So I was like, oh my god, seriously? So I stopped doing that, and then suddenly Kizuna Ai came out of nowhere, and VTubing blew up, and then HoloLive started, right? And then it blew up everywhere.
And I'm actually curious what you think about what do you think about like HoloLive? Would you like, is that something that you want to see yourself joining, or how?
At first, yes. I did actually have considered like definitely auditioning for like Niji Sanji and HoloLive and all those big VTuber companies. But I think at some point, I don't know how the environment is in HoloLive, for example. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but I hear from the Niji Sanji side that there's a lot of things just like people don't like it there. And well, I can't speak for all of them, but a lot of people have graduated from Niji Sanji lately, and I'm starting to feel like maybe it has something to do with the company culture there. I don't. Maybe people don't like it. I wouldn't know because I'm not actually part of it. But because I see all these graduates and I just see all these people just being burned out from it, I'm like, I don't really know if I want to go into a company, because like, what if I lose everything and I have to start over again? And then I don't like it there, like maybe because you're basically applying for a job, what you're doing there, right? It's like a full-time job you're committing towards. So if the people that you work with, or if the environment within the company is just not to your liking, it's a big risk you're taking, and at first I was like, I want to go in there, I want to like try to get in there, but over the time I feel like it's better to do things on your own. It is harder for sure, because you don't get the exposure of being in Niji Sanji or in HoloLive, for example. But I think regaining control over your own content and over your own persona online is for me worth more than giving it all up to go to a bigger company. So
I mean, it's funny because I mean, I'm pretty sure this is the same conversation that people were having a decade ago, just talking about like machinima and like joining like machinima or joining like one of those YouTube groups. And it's a struggle, because when you're independent, you can do whatever you want, you can just go with the flow, and when you're part of an agency, it's like they kind of own you, or they kind of own your character or persona. In a way,
they basically own like your entire image. So the moment you leave the company, you lose all of that.
That's
all
crazy.
The exposure you had. People will find you still though, because the only thing that remains is your personality.
That's true.
And for example, VShojo recently, and I know a lot of people don't know about it, but we definitely know about it. The two new members from VShojo are ex-members from Niji. So people immediately could recognize who they were just based on the way they are, the way they talk. It is so easy to recognize someone based on their personality nowadays. People knew exactly it was them.
Dang.
So even if you graduate, technically you still have a safe point. Like, people still remember who you are as a person. So that what kind of gives it away for like being a VTuber. It's not all about how the model looks like. It's also about the person behind it. And as long as you can make that known to people, you're pretty good, even if you lose everything.
Do you consider Fayevi, like, do you consider Faye as a character, or is it just like yourself, you being you? Like, how do you see it?
So Fayevi was technically supposed to be a character, and it was supposed to be my FF14 character kind of vibe, because I thought about like how Faye would be as a person in the game, but then I realized that Faye is just how I am. Everything about Faye is literally how I am in real life as well. So it's not really a character anymore. It's just more me as a person, how I would be like. So if you would meet me in real life, I would be the same way as I would be online technically. I cannot put up a persona, and I know that like a lot of VTubers, they like to role play into like a specific character that they are, and
Yeah.
some of them do, some of them don't. It's mixed. But I think for myself, and with a lot of VTubers as well, if they try to go into a character, at some point they'll drop it. Like you see, for example, if there's like this really glittery princess type, they will start out as a very glittery princess type, but then it turns out that along the way, they're kind of more mean. They're kind of more like, you know, more realistic, and they start dropping their act a bit more, and they kind of drop off from that persona that they have created from the beginning. Not so much with the JP ones, but more so with the English ones. They start like really, you kind of start seeing their real personality over time, because being able to act for that long is, no one can do that. Like, no one can keep up an act for that long. So
that's true.
Eventually they will drop to their own personality, and I kind of just skip that whole part. I don't want to make up a personality. I just want to be myself, so that people don't feel like they've been lied to after I like calm down and become myself. So yeah, I would say it's more myself at this point.
Would you ever go back to, you know, regular face cam, or do you just see yourself seeing how far you can go with the VTube thing?
So facecam is one thing that I have been thinking about in the past, but nowadays not so much anymore. Mainly because of the fact that my entire idea of being a content creator online is to bring joy and happiness online. And I technically accept trying to make a living out of it, I guess. I don't really want anything in return for it. I don't need a fame. I don't need to be known by people when I go outside. I don't need people to praise me for what I am online and the things I do. So I want to try to stay as anonymous as possible, just because I don't really think I want the fame. And that's not what I'm here for either. I mean, it's funny that you say that, but you know, I go to your YouTube channel and you have like almost 30k subs. I mean, that's pretty big. I mean, that's you're getting up there, you know. Yeah, so the YouTube channel is kind of dead, because like the thing is that the YouTube channel is actually a repurposed channel that I used to have for my older careers on YouTube. Okay. So most of the subscribers on there are not accurate. At the moment, I would say I have, at the moment I would have about like maybe 3,000, 4,000 actual subscribers. So usually when I look at my subscriber count, I just deduct 25k from that, because they are from the old. And I'm trying to kind of refresh them, so that the older ones that are not interested in my content anymore leave, so that the new ones come in. So that's why I'm fluctuating very hard around the 30k, because when people come in from the new stuff, they're like, oh my god, I'm subscribing to this. And when older viewers come in, they're like, who the fuck is this? And then they will leave, right? So it happens all at the same time. So that's why my channel will most likely fluctuate for a while around 30k before I grow again.
If you don't mind me asking, why did you want to, you know, rebrand?
From Fayevi, you mean? Or
from your old content to what you're doing now?
Because I used to, in the old content, it was a whole different type of content that I did at the time for fun. And now I'm leaning more towards like more gaming content, because at the time I was more of a music promoter rather than an actual content creator.
Crazy.
So basically I would have like a small agency / company that people could mail me at if they wanted to promote their song, and I would basically put up on the channel, and that's basically it. It's just a collective area where a lot of people would be able to listen to various artists. And I would love to promote those artists, because some of them have really good songs that just don't go out there. And that's why you have like these huge channels, like, I don't know, like Trap Nation, for example, that literally only promote music. And I used to be one of those as well. But then at some point, I didn't really feel like it anymore, and it was just not my thing anymore. So I quit that. And then I vanished off the face of the earth for a good 2 years.
Wow.
And then I started streaming again, and a lot of people found me, and they watched me, and then life started coming in, and school started coming in, so I quit it again. And that was the time where I was like, I think this is it for me, for content creation. I think I am done. I think I've had enough fun with it.
Yeah.
But then came Fayevi. Then came my Final Fantasy 14 career, where I would start making these random videos of my character. They were really cringe, to be honest. That was just literally it was literally just photos of my characters edited together. And someone said to me like, oh, these are really cool, you should post them on TikTok. And I was like, oh my god, do I have to make a TikTok account now? So I made a TikTok account and I went to the Final Fantasy 14 community on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I found this person, Saucy Noodle and Mavi. Those were the two people that I found on TikTok, and they made these shorts.
Yeah.
Right? The same format that I'm doing. And I was like, oh my god, this is fun. I'm going to do it too. And I did it, and it sucked. It was really bad at first because I had no idea what I was doing.
Yeah.
And then at some point, I posted them on Twitter. I was like, why not post them on Twitter? Because I don't see anything on here regarding those shorts. And I was like probably one of the first ones that posted them on Twitter, which technically blew me up. Because Twitter was like, what the hell is this? We love this. We want more. And then I started posting a lot on Twitter. And that's kind of like where most of the popularity that I have comes from. Because I was lucky, I guess. Because I was one of the very few that posted that kind of content for Final Fantasy 14 on Twitter.
Yeah.
So that is what blew up Fayevi for me. And at the time, I did it for fun. And then I got that spark again. The spark of like, oh my god, content creation is so much fun.
Yeah.
And because that spark ignited in me again, I was like, you know what? I'm going to become a content creator again. And since then, I've been starting to upload again and try to work towards my career.
Damn, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's a long story. I'm sorry.
No, that was great. And I mean, I think that was a pretty good way to end the show, because wow, we've been talking about a lot of different things.
Hours.
Yeah. But yeah, so I guess really my last question to you is what do you see going on in the future? What do you have, like, what sort of future plans do you have for your channel?
I definitely want to pursue my VTuber career. I have a new model and a new rebrand again.
Ooh.
Planned out for next year.
Yeah.
And that will be like my final rebrand forever. So the moment that model drops and my new name and everything drops, that will be the one that we'll be going with from there on forward. And I'll be looking forward to making a lot of variety content.
Great.
I know I'm a 14 content creator, but I want to be both. I want to be like a bit spread out, you know?
Yeah. I know a lot of people, especially a lot of like 14 creators, a lot of them tell me that they do feel like they're basically trapped in a box, because they can put out a non-14 video and it really won't do so well. And so I can understand that, but
so it's gonna be hard to grow out of that 14 area, but that's definitely what I'm trying to do lately, so that I don't, get no views if I don't make a 14 video. So.
But all right, so go ahead and where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube under the name Fayevi. I think everywhere I'm called Fayevi, and some of them is with an underscore, and sometimes it's not, so I'm sorry for that confusion. But usually if you just type in @Fayevi, you'll find me.
Yeah.
It's a pretty unique name. No one has it.
Yeah. So. Awesome. Well, go ahead and go ahead and subscribe to Faye. I'm Alpacalypse, and you can also find me on Twitch, on TikTok. You can find me on YouTube, on Twitter, pretty much everywhere at Alpacalypse. And I will see you all on the next show. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye.